Hello, hello everybody. Welcome to the session of ASECCC. Okay, my name is Ringo Mac. I'm the moderator of this session. Our session is Explore Application and Innovative Solutions. Today we have four speakers joining us, and I will introduce them one by one. I would like to invite you for any question to be key into the Q&A box. Then I will screen it and I will pass on to the relevant speaker to answer your questions. Please do that. Now I have the pleasure to invite our prestige speaker from all over the Asia Pacific. First is Ms. Kakashan Basu. Ms. Basu is an educator, environmentalist, champion of women and children's rights, climate reality mentor. She is the recipient of Canada's Meritorious Service Medal and the only Canadian to win the International Children's Peace Prize, a Forbes Under 30. Basu is a United Nations human rights champion, a National Geographic Young Explorer, a UNCCD Land Hero, a UN Habitat Young City Champion, and one of Canada's top 25. She is the founder, president of Green Hope Foundation that works at grassroots level in 28 countries, empowering over 500,000 young people and women in the sustainability development process. She is currently an MBA candidate at Cornell University. So she will be sharing how to harness clean energy innovation to address the needs of climate vulnerable communities. Okay, let's move on to our second speaker, Mr. Zhong Chen Yao. Chen Yao is an advocate for sustainable development and social justice. He is the co-founder and CEO of CarbonCare InnoLab, an NGO promoting climate justice, and a co-founder and director of Climate Finance Asia, a consultancy on climate solutions for business. Chen Yao was formerly the executive director of Oxfam Hong Kong and a member of the board of directors of Oxfam International, where he is actively involved in promoting. He is also a champion for disability rights, having been the president of the Hong Kong Blind Union and a director on the board of Dialogue in the Dark Hong Kong Foundation. So he will be sharing the lesson learned from a community-based solar project called the SolarCare program, initiated by CarbonCare InnoLab. The first speaker would be Dr. Shota Furaya. Dr. Furaya is a researcher at the Institute of Sustainable Energy Analysis in Tokyo. He obtained his PhD in Community Energy Planning from Aalborg University in Denmark and has worked on community-based renewable energy development in Japan. His main research field is the social acceptance of renewable energy, and he focuses on facilitating stakeholders' understanding and collaboration for sustainability. Specifically, he aims to promote a process in which different local stakeholders share a sustainable and creative future vision. So he will be sharing with us on the community power agrivoltaic in Japan. Last but not the least is our prestige guest from Taiwan, Ms. Huang Shuta. Shuta is the director of Homemakers Union Consumers Cooperative and chair of Green Advocates Energy Cooperative. She completed her Master of Public Health degree at the University of Michigan and Homemakers Union Foundation 29 years. Since then, she has begun engaging in the NGO, starting as a volunteer, and then become an entrepreneur of cooperative startup. Through engaging in environmental movements, she started learning more about the subject of organic farming, fair trade, energy resources, and so her topic to share is building partnership in community solar projects in Taiwan. Okay, so that ends my introduction of the speakers. So now we could move on to the actual sharing.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. And hello, everyone. My name is Kesha. I am a United Nations human rights champion and the founder president of Green Hope Foundation. And I'm truly delighted to connect with you all today to speak on a topic that is very close to my heart. Now, a just energy transition is one of the world's greatest challenges, and it is made even more complex by the fact that it involves stepping into the unknown, into uncharted territory. And yet, every day of procrastination exacerbates the triple crisis, making it absolutely imperative for all stakeholders to step forward and make sure that we can recognize energy inequity as one of the root causes that is hampering equitable development. So we need to understand how it addresses all three pillars of sustainable development: the economy, society, and environment. And hence, accelerating this process must be at the core of all of our endeavors. And more importantly, this energy transition can be just and equitable only if we take into account the needs and wants of our most vulnerable communities, amongst them young people, our women and girls, our racialized communities, and something that is of utmost importance to us at Green Hope Foundation as a primarily women led organization. We see how the distribution of energy resources has long been unequitable, and thus we must ensure that the energy transition breaks the shackles of its inequitable legacy, that it benefits every stakeholder who is bereft of access to it. And this is our mantra at Green Hope Foundation, where for the past 11 years, we have been looking beyond solar panels, coming up with creative and innovative solutions whereby we use clean energy infrastructure to cut across social barriers. We ensure that the communities that we work in are net zero. Most of the communities that we operate in still have no access to proper electricity. So we have installed solar grids that power the entire community, addressing needs from education to food security. And as beneficiaries of a clean energy, solar energy driven platform, they then become the first proponents of a net zero friendly system. These initiatives leverage the intersectionality of clean energy, solar energy innovation, and human ingenuity to reduce inequity, restore biodiversity, and power entire communities while creating a low carbon circular economy. Our outreach has benefited over 500,000 people across 28 countries, and our solar grids have an annual carbon offset of 4.5 million kilograms of carbon dioxide. So today, I will be sharing the work that we are doing to harness solar energy to create social, economic, and environmental good, and focusing particularly on our work in the Asia Pacific region. At Green Hope Foundation, we use education for sustainable development as a transformative tool to bring about empowerment and behavioral changes. And our work on the intersection of education and a energy transition is no different. So, in rural, climate vulnerable Bangladesh, we have started our first school, the Green Hope Foundation Academy of Hope for Women and Girls, that provides energy literacy and climate resilience education to girls in the morning, functions as a sewing school for women in the evenings. And this solar powered sewing school has multiple functions. First of all, it enables the women to use sewing as a way to become entrepreneurs, where they upcycle clothes a sustainable future, practicing sustainable fashion as a way to use the money that they then get as entrepreneurs to support their families and, more importantly, send their children to school. And as a second function, the sewing machines in the solar powered center are used to sanitary napkins to promote sexual and reproductive health and rights and menstrual hygiene for women and girls, breaking centuries old taboos that exist in communities, all through the installing of solar panels that has allowed the sewing school to be functional. In the communities that we work in, we understood that a lot of children, especially girls who were of school going age, were actually dropping out of school for, at first glance, no particular reason. But then explained to us how they would feel unsafe walking to school early in the mornings and coming back from school in the evenings because there were no streetlights. And for the girls, especially, being outside in the darkness increased their risk of exploitation, abuse, and trafficking. So their solution was to not go to school because they did not feel safe, thereby rendering them immobile from a physical, emotional, and mental standpoint. Now, safe spaces are a basic human right, but unfortunately, as we all know, women and girls are routinely denied this right all over the world. So, to address the intersection of safe spaces and a just energy transition, we solar powered streetlights to make sure that these women and girls had the freedom of mobility in their own community, having light in their lives, having the freedom to come out of their homes in the evenings, and most importantly, our installation of the solar powered streetlights ensured that the children, especially girls, have safe spaces to pursue their education and not fear for their lives every time they step out into the darkness. To address the issue of food security as a result of climate change induced disasters, we installed agrivoltaic climate smart agriculture systems within these communities. And our solution in this particular community was transformative because it incorporated the dual use of land for both agriculture and for energy, relieving pressure on the ecosystems and biodiversity, which resulted in food security of a vulnerable population through a net zero circular economy, with the solution helping to trap moisture released by crops, thereby reducing both use and plant drought stress. And the moisture in the air cooled the solar photovoltaic panels, helping the panels to perform better. So the solution was of agrivoltaics within this community helped to overcome the impacts of climate change while increasing the yield of agricultural crops by over 30%, reducing water consumption and operating costs, all while producing solar energy. During the pandemic, we realized that there was a severe drop in the number of children going to school within these communities, particularly girls. And this was exacerbated by the fact that most of these communities were also facing climate change induced disasters. Therefore, we started our solar powered mobile libraries that are currently taking books to the doorstep of thousands of out of school children to ensure that they are able to get the literacy skills that they need. And this has made sure that now, post pandemic, over 60% of the children have actually been able to return to school, with more than half of these children being girls. Now, this solar powered mobile library within the Asia Pacific region from Bangladesh to rural Western India, where we were able to see a similar impact of the solar powered mobile libraries in utilizing clean energy technology to further education of a community that was suffering from both the impacts of COVID-19 as well as climate change induced disasters, as well as suffering from gender inequity. Now, within this community, we realized that most of the children had never had access to any kind of technology. And with particularly the girls, they were severely lacking in their education relating to STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math, which meant that once they graduated, if they graduated high school, they would not be able to find good jobs because they did not have the IT or computer skill sets that would enable them to contribute to the economy. Therefore, built a solar powered computer STEM that now provides the children and especially the girls of this community with STEM education, wherein our members train these girls on the different components of science, technology, engineering, and math. And we're working with these children, providing them with skills based STEM education for energy literacy so that these young girls are equipped with the skill sets to get good jobs and help continue the upliftment of their community. And as you can see in these images, these girls now impart that same STEM education to their peers, thereby creating a feedback loop where they're able to impart the education that they gained from Green Hope Foundation. Within the communities that we work in rural Western India, a lot of the women there, particularly, are migrant workers. And what they have to do is that in the mornings, they cook food for their children using polluting firewood, burning firewood, which is extremely bad for their respiratory health and also for the environment. And then they leave, which means that the food that was cooked gets very cold, and the children end up not eating the food because they don't want to eat the cold food at all. And this leads to very high levels of malnutrition. And so we distributed solar powered cookers to these women and ensured that they had the proper training to be able to use these solar powered cookers, which means that now they have a way of clean cooking, which does not impact their health negatively, which does not impact the environment negatively. And it also ensures that the food, once put into the solar cookers, actually stays warm throughout the day, which means the children are able to eat the food and not suffer from malnutrition. And similarly, in this community, we also upscaled our agrivoltaic climate smart agriculture, where we were able to work with the children and especially the girls here to further increase crop yield and help solve issues of food insecurity within these communities. Now, going from Asia to the Pacific region, which is the final example that I will share today, where in the small island developing state of Kiribati, one of the countries in the Pacific Islands that is severely vulnerable to climate change and within the next 50 years runs the risk of being completely submerged underwater. The challenge that this country and particularly the indigenous communities here are facing is that due to climate change induced rising sea levels, they're facing an influx of brackish water, the salty ocean water that is coming in and polluting their water, making it salty, which means that they cannot drink that water, leading to water insecurity. And so we at Green Hope Foundation have installed a solar water farm and solar distillation system in Kiribati that uses solar energy to harness both rainwater and groundwater and purifying it using the distillation system. This is providing the indigenous people, and particularly the women and girls, with clean drinking water as well as water for their crops. Because previously they could not water their crops using salty ocean water, which in turn led to food insecurity. So, through the solar water farm and distillation system, we're able to address energy inequity, climate injustice, water insecurity, and food insecurity. So, through all of our work, we are safeguarding climate justice energy equity and looking beyond the solar panels by instituting in place creative solar applications and innovative solutions, making sure that these vulnerable communities have a just and equitable transition to clean, renewable energy and low carbon economies through concrete ground level actions that take into account the intersectional realities of those most impacted by energy inequity, young people, women, and girls in all of their diversity. And thus, a just energy transition would not only positively impact the planet and the economy, it will be intersectional in nature to truly benefit our most vulnerable. And that is why it is so important that we look beyond the solar panels and understand the tremendous impact that solar energy and clean energy have once they are utilized to harness social good. And in this way, we can ensure that no one is left behind and that everyone has a life of dignity. Thank you very much. And back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Vasu. Wow, amazing case study from three different countries. So we'll learn from you a bit more on the moderator section. So now I pass the time to Chen Yao, Zhang Chen Yao, on his kind of topic. He got a video to show first, right?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, moderator Ringo. So I'm also very impressed with Ms. Basu's sharing. It's very inspiring. And in fact, I would not dare to compare with the presentation, but I hope my presentation will be also useful to the participants. CarbonCare InnoLab is a NGO set up in 2014, and we are focusing on mitigating and adapting to climate change, and especially harnessing the creativity of young people for solutions to climate change. So I will skip my personal background. At the moment, I am now speaking from Taipei, from Greenpeace's office. So it happens that Greenpeace, the Taipei office, has a solar system on their rooftop. So I want to make tribute to their hospitality and office facilities to enable me to give this presentation while I'm on holiday in Taipei. Um, CCI, CCIL's programs include a training program for young people, KT, and then a climate justice program, energy care community action, which enable us to work with Taichung district residents who live in subdivided flats. They are living in very poor conditions, and they including suffering from extreme heat and also unscrupulous charges on energy by their landlord. So we try to change uh, LED lights for them, and more importantly, we want to empower them to form community and to understand that their situation will be aggravated by the accelerating climate change, and that they have a position to advocate for their rights during the transition to a low carbon economy. So we today I will be focusing on one program that we are launching, and we have been working on it since 2019 when the Hong Kong government introduced the fit-in tariff scheme. Uh, and the program is called SolarCare program. It is supported by grants from the Hong Kong Jockey Club Charitable Foundation to enable us to work with NGO partners in Hong Kong. And I would like to show you a video about the program before continuing to draw lessons from it. So can Gigi help me to show the video?
CarbonCare InnoLab is an environmental NPO managing the largest solar PV system capacity in Hong Kong. We have constructed 34 solar energy sites comprising 5,000 solar panels with a total capacity of more than 24,000 kilowatts. This capacity is equivalent to avoiding more than 1,000 tons of CO2 emissions. The energy produced by the sites will be utilized to power the energy requirements of Hong Kong citizens. Up to 2020, Asia-Pacific region's renewable energy mix accounted for 24.46%. Looking into Hong Kong's performance, the renewable energy mix accounts for only 0.1%.
CarbonCare InnoLab initiated an innovative scheme called the SolarCare program to demonstrate and inspire the community to a collaborative effort to accelerating the renewable energy supply. This program consists of matching philanthropy funding, system installation and maintenance. The SolarCare system not only generates renewable energy, but also stimulates the NPOs to introduce climate change education into their services. Through the partners, the message is reaching the young, the elderly, and the marginal communities that they support. The SolarCare program aligns with SDG 7, 11, 13, and 17. The SolarCare program adopts a community-based approach. Achieving carbon neutrality is possible if it involves all stakeholders.
One of the key things that we do is teach them about environmental responsibility, and if we can role model that for them, then I think that they leave better understanding what can be done and the way that society should be heading. We're an experiential education organisation, which means that we teach or the students learn through doing and through seeing, and so the solar panels really allow our participants to see firsthand what can be done. We actually measure the outcomes for our participants and our scores in environmental responsibility. In other words, after the course, the extent to which young people have increased their awareness of the environment are very, very high, which shows that we really make a difference on participants' environmental understanding and responsibility. Outward Bound was affected massively by the pandemic, the same as everybody. We didn't operate for 3 years, which meant no income. And although that's not the aim of the feed-in tariff, obviously it did help us massively survive those really challenging times. The other thing that it really allows us to do is to be a little bit more proactive in other environmental areas, so we can choose more environmentally friendly options, because even though they may be more expensive, because we're able to offset it with some of the feed-in tariff costs. So it allows us to walk the walk a little bit more. We have signed up to the Outward Bound International Environmental Charter, and in order to do that, we need to commit to environmentally friendly supply chains, environmentally responsible operations, for example, and the feed-in tariff has allowed us to really commit to that fully.
Crossroads cares deeply about the poor, and it is the poor who are the most affected by the impacts of climate change, from increased weather events, extreme weather events like droughts and floods. It's crucial to us that we not only use sustainable energy ourselves, but inspire others to do likewise, so we can reduce climate effects and help the poor as a result. The SolarCare program is a win-win-win for Crossroads. It provides us with income through the feed-in tariff scheme, up to 2 to 3% of our annual budget, which means that translates into helping thousands of people in Hong Kong. We send goods like clothes and furnishings and electrical appliances to people here in Hong Kong and all around the world. And that money is the equivalent of us helping about 1,600 people in Hong Kong alone, just because of the power of the sun. Our solar installation not only brings in money that we can use to operate our services, helping people in Hong Kong and around the world, but it also helps us inspire thousands of students and other members of the community to think about what it would mean to have sustainable energy throughout Hong Kong and throughout the world. It helps us show people how energy, particularly solar, can make a difference in developing nations where people don't even have access to regular energy for their daily needs.
By the year of 2030, the SolarCare program will partner up and install solar PV systems for 70 sites. The total projected capacity of these systems will be more than 4.7 million kilowatts, generating approximately 2.4 million kilowatts of energy per month. This amount of energy will be sufficient to power approximately 18,000 households on a monthly basis. CarbonCare InnoLab also nurtures and expands the active community for climate-just transition and defossilisation. Our focus is to prioritize the protection and respect of vulnerable communities, both locally and globally.
Okay, I will show you a few cases. For example, we built a solar systems in a place called Salt and Light Preservation Center in an island called Yan, a remote island in Hong Kong. And so the fishermen and the villagers have already gone. So there is a preservation center to demonstrate how people lived in the past through sea salt and harvesting on their fishing stock around the sea. So our solar system is there to demonstrate how renewable energy can be linked together with preservations. And so it's about the past, it's about the future. Another example is that we also build a system with the Precious Blood Children's Village. This is a home for the children who suffer from abuse, either at schools or at home. So they have a temporary protection center. So the solar system there enable us to also conduct climate education to the kids and also show them that renewable energy and also climate change are relevant things that they can make a contribution in the future. They are not just victims, they are also problem solvers. They can contribute to others as well. So, we have a system with the Hong Kong Football Association. Hong Kong used to be very good in football, but that was several decades ago. Now no longer, but we are still investing heavily on the young. We hope they will come back. So the solar system there hopefully will also give another edge for our investment for future generations. We want them to lead us to a sustainable world. Crossroad, we have shown you in the film. I will not repeat. And we have also a system in an organization called Hope House. It is about animal protections. And we also install a system there to share with people who love animals and to show that we inhabited which is become more and more unfriendly to other animals. So biodiversity is part of the battle against climate change. We have a system in Breakthrough Center, which is one of the biggest youth organizations in Hong Kong, with many camps and so on. So this is another major inroad into young education there. We are very thankful for the many NGO partners who share our mission and work with us. Currently, we have, while we plan to build the 34 sites in the video in this year, now functioning at 20, 26, 28, 27. But the number is not important. The idea is there. The mission is there. The impacts I will summarize as one, demonstrating community partnership in generating solar energy. So we don't have to just rely on government, big business, and NGOs. Community efforts are very important. Secondly, to engaging diverse stakeholders in combating climate change. And we know that the poor suffer most and they are least responsible for climate change. And finally, providing income for community services. So that was shared by many of our partners in the video. I will not repeat. But finally, I would like to say climate change knows no border. We need more cross-border collaborations. So in that, I share very much Ms. Dasu's view. The case of solar system has been contributed to the UN global stakeholder online system. It forms one of the cases of for the high level review of goal number 7, access to energy, that happened in July this year. So thank you very much. I look forward to the interesting interaction with the audience later on.
Thank you, Chen Yao. Wow, very impressive program that engaged so many NGO, and the impact is vast. So thank you. So I would invite our other attendees raise their question if they have any. Okay, now the third speaker to share with us is Dr. Furuya. His topic would be on commodity power and agrivoltaic in Japan. Dr. Furuya, your time, please.
Thank you. Thank you for introduction and having me. My name is Shotoria. I will share my presentation slide chat to share for the participants, and you can click the link directly with this online slide. So I will start sharing screen. Yes. Yes. My name is Shotoria from Institute for Sustainable Energy Policies. I have worked on community renewable energy for more than a decade in Japan and working internationally to share its experience and knowledge. So I will share this time about community power concept of community power and and also very interesting development about agrivoltaics in Japan. So first, I'd like to share the definition of community power, which is defined by World Wind Energy Association in 2011 by the multi-stakeholder participation among practitioners, researchers around the world, how to define the good renewable energy that is owned by communities and controlled by communities. And the project will share the social and economic benefits to the local community. So this is a very basic things for community power. And with this concept and keyword, we can find which is good project and which is not so good project. So I'd like to emphasize that this community power is very important to make energy transition very fair and locally meaningful project can be produced with this concept. And in Japan, actually, some pioneer project existed, Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2011. But after the disaster, many people in Japan think about energy issue very seriously, and they learned a lot, and they took action to make something a very concrete manner. Then ISEP has supported those activities around the country and to establish business entity and set up first energy project and how to finance it. So and yeah, many communities worked on that, and now it's very difficult to catch precise information. But as far as I know, there are over 60 or 70 community power business entities in Japan, and more than 200 projects are working in Japan. And that's community power development in Japan. And I am co-chairing the International Renewable Energy Agency's Coalition for Action Community Energy Working Group. Then we have published several white papers to share the best practice of the community power or community energy around the world. And the third one, the community energy toolkit, best practice for broadening the ownership of renewables, is published or ago. Then we compiled the 12 case studies, best practices around the world. I contributed Japanese case called Hotok Energy and Shonan Power, which is very interesting, locally owned and locally really interesting project. And I don't have time to tell the details this time, but if you are interested in it, you can access to this white paper later for free from the coalition's website. So now I'd like to talk about the agrovoltaics. I see that first speaker's presentation. I see the agrovoltaic to see that. And according to the Ministry of Agriculture in Japan, agrovoltaics uses solar panels to control the amount of solar radiation, sharing sunlight between agricultural production and power generation. In addition to income from crop sales, farmers can expect to increase the scale of their farming operations and promote agricultural innovation by expanding their income through the scale of the sale of electricity and private use of electricity generated. So it's as you see, it's about hybrid of agriculture and solar power generation. And about statistics, Japanese Ministry of Agriculture collected information and published it. The number of permits granted for conversion of farmland for the installation of agrivoltaics facilities 3,474 by fiscal year 2020, covering 827.7 hectares. And as you see the chart in left, the number of permissions steadily increased. And the crop category breakdown of crop categories are in the right chart. Mostly vegetables 35% and ornamental plants 30%, but also we do rice and wheat and fruit tree and others. So really very plants are very widely covering the agrovoltaics. And then I'd like to share the very interesting two cases. One is in Fukushima in Nihonmatsu City called Nihonmatsu Agri Solar and Sunshine Project. This project ISEP also supported, and this place was formerly abandoned farmland and really like a wild bush landscape it used to be. But with some opportunity, we decided to develop agrivoltaics in this area, farming and solar power generation. The size of the project is 3.9 megawatt in DC, and this is maybe one of the biggest solar agrivoltaic in Japan. And this project was realized under the cooperation between local community power enterprise, consumer cooperative, ISEP, and local financial institutions. Yeah, this is very nice landscape now, but it is to be a wild bush. And in this project, the farmers are doing various agriculture, making agriculture products. Mainly the grape is the main plant, and also doing a soybean and also carrots. And nowadays, recently, they started cattle grazing, and the cows are eating the weed. So it's really much use of the farmland. And also, they planting kind of sesame leaf, and they squeeze it and making sesame seed oil, and this is very nice quality. I really enjoy it. Yeah, and actually this case is this land is those three persons are key, mainly operating this project. And I have a very interesting story behind this, but it's long story, so I'll tell if I have. And also, this project was very interesting. Then the Japanese filmmaker did documentary on this. And if you are interested in this, you can see from the shared link. Yeah. And then another sister project is in Nagano Prefecture in the it's really center of the Japanese mainland, which is called Nobeyama Agri Solar in Minami-Maki village. This is also the case that converted the former abandoned farmland to agriculture and solar power generation. The size of the project is 1.6 megawatt in DC. And this project, local farmers, ISEP, and the local community power, and consumer cooperative, and local financial institutions cooperated and made it possible. And this project is really high in really near the mountain. This mountain behind this picture is called Yatsugatake Mountain. 8 mountains are consisting the landscape, and this is really besides the under this mountain, and landscape is super nice. And then in this project, we are not just doing the agrivoltaics, but we would like to make this place for community, and by renovating a building on the side of the agrivoltaics. This is the project, and we really next to the solar panel, we have a big building, around 45 years old building, and this can be making. We are planning to renovate this place, and for example, not just making a renovate, but also we have ideas that the place combining activities such as Highland vegetable soup curry restaurant, shared salon for busy mothers, spinach harvest experience, pizza and barbecue, art installation, retreat in the forest, like that. So we are doing workshop and making project right now. And finally, I'd like to share the importance of agrivoltaics. Agrivoltaics have enormous potential. And in Japanese land, often people say Japan is a very small country, but actually it's very big, and most farmland are available for agrivoltaics. And then in the farming fields, we have 470 gigawatts potential, and the rice parties, we have 300 gigawatts potential. This is very big potential. And agrivoltaics have the potential to strengthen the business foundation of farmers. They are really vulnerable, but through income from the power generation, they can make strong. And also, it is also becoming an attractive option for young new farmers. And not only that, it also provides opportunity to revitalize abandoned farmland. This is very serious issue in Japan because farmers are aging and population are decreasing. So agrivoltaics can be a solution for that. And furthermore, it has the potential to connect people in rural and urban areas and revitalize communities. Actually, in really doing this, we face many challenges, but I can say that this is one of the very important solutions for Japan. That's from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Furuya, for sharing this inspiring project, which a lot of people would be interested in combining the solar renewable energy into the agriculture world. That's one of a very ideal situation. Okay, now we would pass our time to Su De. She is in Taiwan and will be sharing the building partnership in community solar projects via her experience, our co-op efforts in Taiwan. So, okay, it's your time.
Allow me. Okay. Can you all see my file?
Yes, it's good.
Okay. I would like to thank for the previous speaker because the Chan Yao had mentioned about several of the Hong Kong's organization. For example, the Crossroads has inspired us on the fair trade movement. And we're happy that they are moving along in a very nice pace to combat the poverty problem. And also the Japan speaker, Furuya-san, the agrivoltaic project, which in Taiwan have inspired much more conflict. And the government now are restricting it to under 2 hectares because it created a lot of conflict. In in Taiwan, the land is only 1/10 of Japan. So even the wasteland or the abandoned land, it become a land grabbing development game. So today I would like to share that how we as a cooperative and our other partner cooperative that are established for the purpose of promoting renewable energy, how we are trying to work with our multi-stakeholder in our community. So allow me my name is Shu De Huang, or you can call me Huang Shu De. It's like a Xi Jinping. We usually have our last name first. So let me share last year. This is our first time in Taiwan. that the annual power generation, we look into the ratio, the renewable energy is for the first time it have exceeded the nuclear power supply in our power generation. Last year, it marked the renewable energy, in terms of electricity supply, constitute 8.27, and the nuclear power is 8.24. And among the renewable energy, the most expanding is solar, which is about 3.7, and the wind power electricity now are in a very fast pace, because with the completion and the co-generate together, we were going to see the wind power in the following probably 5 year or 10 year. We're going to see they are going to increase in a very fast pace. But just 2 years ago, the survey about what do you think of our constitute the most of our general of the power generation, there's still about a quarter of the citizens would still think that nuclear power supply the most electricity in Taiwan. So as the misinformation or fake news around the media or the in all the cyberspace, you know that that's one of the hinder things about how we promoting the renewable energy. So in Taiwan, we still heavily depend on the fossil fuel to power our electricity, which is about more than 80%. This is our situation. And I would like to say that we, as a women's group, we all from the Homemakers United Foundation, Shihuleme, and also we had another sisters group is called the Homemakers Union Consumers Co-op, which Dr. Furuya-san had just mentioned that Consumers Co-op ASECCC in Japan also play some role in consolidating the capital or the driving force in pushing the renewable energy project. And so after the Fukushima disaster that confounded the whole world, and not only Japan, we are so under the East Asia and still using a lot of our nuclear power in terms of our electricity dependency. So creating a low carbon society through climate action has been one of our driving force to founded our energy co-op in the year 2016 in the October. And currently, after 6 years of operation, currently we have 329 members. Still, 66% are women. And we have also 8 corporate members, which in Taiwan's cooperative law or the Cooperative Act, to become a corporate member of a cooperative, it has to be a non-profit organization. And so I would today just share our 6 year also what we have come to the state. So here in Junior Shuhuleme, Kikinkai, and the Homemakers Union Consumers Co-op ASECCC are one of our major sister organization. We're the first women's environmental group in Taiwan. And also Greenpeace Taiwan Foundation has been one of our partners in terms of joining the corporate member. And the rest will be, there are energy co-op, housing co-op, and the credit union, and there's a Christian social service group. So these are okay, a backing point of when the project we like to expand. They all are very supportive to our effort. So we started slow and small in terms of capital and our capacity, our knowledge in terms of what's the renewable energy project, how to start. There's a lot of the bureaucratic paperwork, or you have to navigate through. So it took us 1 year just to complete one small 10 kilowatt project on a family 3-story small house. But you can look into the neighborhood. None of us are following us, because in Taiwan we have high heat and we have heavy rainfall. So most of the rooftop are suffering from leaking problem or very bad situation in terms of the heat insulation. And the easiest way is to put an iron top on the ceiling, which is in terms about building code, it's called a illegal facility or illegal construction site. So if you had already put on a rooftop, it's difficult to apply for what we know most of the rooftop project we in Taiwan, it'll be impossible to apply. And in Taiwan, because of the feed-in tariff project, we usually like to making a higher supporting frame, because usually on the top of the roof we had either a water tank or elevators facility. So usually we'll create some shuttle to hinder your own panels. So we usually raise the height above 3-meter height. So it can also create a top, another extra space, which is cooler down the top floor, and can create a new space for the family gathers, especially during the COVID pandemic period. And for a group primarily constituted of women, we know that we don't agree with the nuclear power to be one of our, because Taiwan we don't have a place for permanent spent fuel site, and so all of the spent fuel from the nuclear power plant are still in the cooling pond inside the nuclear power plant. We have 3 nuclear power plants in Taiwan, and each of them have 2 reactors. And nuclear power 1 and number 2, the 4 reactor has been shut down from last year on, 4 years until last year. And we still have 2 reactors are now still operating. The schedule to shut down is 2025. So that's what the ruling party or the government are scheduled for our nuke-free Taiwan schedule in 2025. And so these are the contrary to what we are doing during the pandemic. We're still holding our learning tool to where the nuclear power number 2 is scheduled to shut down at the time, and we talked to the local anti-nuke group about what they know, or they in terms of what the shutting down and the decommission will become, and what are the factors of the local government are not taking a responsibility of approving the temporary site for the spent fuel. Okay. And the Earth Day 2 years ago, this is some of our Presbyterian Church General Assembly building. We make it as not really regular, but sometimes we can hold learning. But during the pandemic, it's difficult to hold more site learning experience as much as we want to. Okay. So this is what the Presbyterian Church General Assembly, the building, which is about 35 to almost like 40 years. It's not a new building, but put up is 50 kilowatt the solar PV capacity. These have shown in the past 3 years the power generation around it's more than 50,000 kilowatt hour per year, and it varies. And you can see that year 2021, it's much higher because we experience a extreme heat and drought. And you know, when we have experienced drought or a very strong UV light, usually the performance is better. And so this is just a in Taipei City, where most people the photo and voltaic generation is not as good as the southern Taiwan. So most of the development project or the rooftop type of PV project usually will choose central Taiwan and southern Taiwan. But with the population and all the economic activity, Taipei used electricity. So to us, it's important to have a site, and especially when we talked about using a church. Church is a symbol for salt and light, and we would like to use more as a church as a site for more public awareness and acceptance in terms of the PV power generation. And so we, through the in the past 5 years or so, we started to expand our working relationship with food producer, with our tofu plant, and the small clinic in New Taipei City or individual households. And also in the past, so we started to have the capacity of contacting the private university in Taiwan. The public university usually will have a group tenant project, and when the bidding process, usually the very large EPC will get the bid. So for a small organization like us, it's important because we don't have the qualification to attend the bid. So private university become a possible as long as we have find the like-minded key person or the contact. So this is a project that we installed in one of their dormitory in the Asian University in Taichung, and also the social welfare organization that I have just mentioned. And last year we had a co-housing apartment. This is a private, it can accommodate about 30 rooms, about 50 people now living in. It's a new facility and it's privately owned. And so to us, it's a new experience of trying to working with people that can share the same value with us. And also, as a cooperative, we are now in our seventh year of surviving. We now gradually to find the way to navigate through our financial stability. And this year we're proud to be in terms of stabilize in a way the operational cash flow now can cover our financial loans and interest. And other than the fact that the interest rate is rising, which is it's a negative factor for investing more in a new project, since the cooperative, the donation to cooperative is not tax. What is that? 不能够抵税，怎么说？tax deductible. we have to find new way of funding, finding the funding, which is not only with our own capital, and also to work with the bank and have to cover all the insurance annually, and we have to maintain the cleaning, monitoring the performance. So all our site we have installed the online monitoring facility, so we know whether they are performing in a normal situation. And also, I would like to share that last year in the late September, we have finished one of the project. This is the co-owned and invest by us. Our cooperative is to put a solar PV facility on the top of in Taiwan, our central government agency is called the Environment Protection Agency. And because the EPCs think this is too small, but for our civic society, we think it's big enough to make demonstration and impact study in Taipei. And so we have estimated that the power generation could probably around 150,000 kilowatt hour per year. But we have been able to just collect the data for the 10 years or 10 months in the past 10 months. And that this is one of the monitoring looks like. And for the past 10 months of operation, and we compare, it can provide with the about 10% of the electricity consumption for the building. So I think this is important because we have compared in the past 2 years all our our PV site, and so compare the consumption and the electricity producing. So it usually constitutes from 10% to 70% for that particular building. And this year, in around the end of September, maybe until early October, there's another facility. It'll be near the completion and can electricity. Is on the top of the Mennonite Christian Hospital in Hualien, Taiwan. Hualien is in the east coast of Taiwan, and where serve the population, a lot of them are indigenous people, and you can compare Hualien more or less like an outback. It's a less developed area, or it was also the weather prone from typhoon or earthquake. So in terms of doing what we are doing and try to lower the risk of the natural disaster, we have to look into all the construction and also the maintaining of the site. I would also like to introduce another energy cooperative. It's called the New Taipei City Smart Green Energy Cooperative. They started just about 4 years ago, but what they develop in a much faster pace than us, because they do build up a capacity and can work with an EPC. So they started with 3 farmhouses, and then there's a nearby private hospital. We'll later on contact them. So they have moved very fast in terms of have a local community, a hospital that join them in terms of promoting all these solar PV. And also last year they have finished 2 private university. One, it's all in the northern Taipei city. One is the Suzhou University, Dongwu Daxue, and there's the Chinese Cultural University, Wenhua Daxue. And And the reason why they can move in such a strong pace because they have a strong affiliation with the Danshui Cultural Foundation. You can call it more or less like their mother organization. And they have a Zhongliao Community Development Association, which is all the farmhouses or the farming area are in their area of interest. And also there's a Damsui Community College. So this is our, we call the multi-stakeholder, and it will contribute to how it's a strong, positive driving force for their expansion. Okay, the last one, just 2 days ago. Okay, I just started with what the net zero Taiwan would be like last year in the Taiwan government announcing the Taiwan's pathway to net zero emission in 2050. So that's the time when the strategy and also the roadmap was started to be elaborated on for the first time. So, and also this year in the beginning of January, the law, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction and Management Act, are upgraded into Climate Change Response Act. And accordingly, in this August, we've seen the two agriculture and environment, the administrative was upgraded and expanded into Ministry of Agriculture and also the Ministry of Environment, which will bring Taiwan in a much faster in of new legislation force for the carbon fee scheme, and later on maybe carbon tax in much later time. And climate change administration was established under the Ministry of Environment, and we are glad to let you know that we just mentioned the EPA, our PV facilities just on the Ministry of Environment. It used to call the EPA. Okay.
So thank you. Thank you, Suta. Okay, thank you for your...
So the last one is some of our
Suta. Hello,
okay,
Suta.
the time is up.
Yeah, I think time is running out because each of our guests have shared a very intensive kind of information to the audience. So, and we receive a number of questions along with the kind of I would like to pass on to the speaker to address. So there's one common ground. I believe that 4 of our speakers also comment on the community solar power, which each of you has applied in different ways. So then the audience and we would like to touch on this particular issue a little bit more. Okay, that is the general part on how good and then what is the best case study that your respective community solar system has achieved, or what is the limitation. So that is a general question. And for each individual, so I have some, we screen some Q&A, and then I would like to highlight this to one each first. Okay, I think the most interesting one is for Dr. Furuya. The question is, any high value vegetation produce are most suitable for the agrivoltaic? Because this is important to balance the investment of the PV system. And can you share what is the key limitation for the agrivoltaic kind of system? Dr. Furuya, can you address that?
Thank you for the question. Can you hear me? Yeah, this is very important and frequent question. And the agrivoltaics is in the middle of development, and people don't know what's the best or not and the vegetables. But recently, many researchers are working on it, and we can see that the each crop has very different solar saturation curve, something like that. So it's different crop by crop. So, but mostly with enough the solar radiation, the this panel, you said the most vegetables are okay, and some vegetable decrease its yield, but some vegetables even increase yield. So maybe in near future more science findings coming up, but mostly it's fine doing solar over the farmland.
Thank you. Thank you. One more follow-up question is that you show the toolkit of the best case study. Can it
Yeah.
be downloaded, or where can the audience access that report?
Yeah, you can download for free from the Coalition's website, and I will put link in the chat.
That's good.
Later.
So CCIL would post the relevant link for the interested people to download. Thank you. Okay, now is the question for Ms. Basu. The audience are interested. How could your foundation initiate and located so many meaningful projects throughout the different developing country or underdeveloped country? So what is the channel that you can kind of initiate so many interesting projects you mentioned, Ms. Lazu?
Yes, thank you for that question. Our members are from very communities that we work in, whether it is in the Asia Pacific region, in the countries that I shared, or around the world. And most of the times, they're the ones who reach out to us, asking for a solution that they would like to implement, or sharing a challenge that they see in their communities that they feel that we would be able to help them out with. And that is very important for us, that they're the ones reaching out, they're the ones kind of leading the projects, because we never want to impose solutions on people, particularly working within the clean energy space. One of the things that we always want to avoid is making imposing solutions on people, because when we're installing these clean energy technologies, we have to ensure that we have the consent of everyone. There's something that they're all in agreement with, and we understand the unique intersectionalities that do exist there. So our members and those who work with us on the ground are from those very communities, and they are the ones who reach out to us with their unique kind of problems. And then we work with them to figure out solutions on how we can use solar energy to be able to solve that issue. And that is how we make sure that we don't implement a one size fits all policy. Rather, we understand their unique intersections, we understand their unique issues, and thereafter we come up with unique solutions. So, whether it is to address food insecurity, or lack of access to education, or water insecurity, we are able to address all of these different unique challenges, because our members are from those communities, understand what is going on firsthand, and thereafter they're able to reach out to us, and then they're able to work with us to implement these concrete ground level solutions driven by solar energy.
Wow, a lot of tailor-made project, and there's a lot of admin
Yes,
work involved.
yes,
So very
thank
impressive.
you.
Okay,
Thank
now
you.
comes a question to CarbonCare InnoLab, to Chan Yao. The audience would like to know, can Hong Kong, the local farmland, apply the SolarCare program and using the agrivoltaic, that means the semi-solar system, as well as to kind of grow their own plantation? Chan Yao?
Yeah, we have been thinking about the idea. We need to explore. There are some regulations about for example, the height of structure of building something in over the farmland. So yeah, it's it's difficult to work through the bureaucracies. I think it brings me to a question of whenever you build systems anywhere, there will be bureaucracy, paperwork, regulations, and I think all the NGOs should work together to call for relaxation of these regulations. For CarbonCare InnoLab, I have lobbied the district land department, in Hong Kong, to allow the development department to allow us to build on sites that they rent to NGOs. And sometimes it takes almost a year for the approval to go through. And the agricultural, the farm is also under these kind of restrictions, but we are willing to explore it in Hong Kong. So I think the other speakers may also comment on the regulations and the bureaucracy that they may face in their own country.
Sure. Suda, any prior case, similar case that you could comment on?
Yes, the application is not only in the hand of the Thai power company where they buy the green energy is a obligation, but also they have to report it to the Bureau of Energy, and also contact the local government. And usually it's in the local government where the housing, the building authority usually will have opinion on whether it's an illegal facility. And that's where the Chang Yao had mentioned about we need to have a sort of a loose or deregulate to a certain extent, which is difficult. Different local government might have different attitude according to whatever the staff are listed.
Okay, thank you. Wow, still a number of questions coming in, but so many questions, so little time. So I'm afraid we have to end this session in 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, any particular comment or kind of advocative that any of our speakers would like to voice out? One last one.
Okay.
Chang Yao?
Yeah, the session for review later on. So I hope if the questions can be kept, then we try to respond online.
That would be great. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we work together as a
yes, really, the time is up for the next session. So thank you so much for each of you, and thank you for the audience to attend. Okay, and if you have applied for another session in 3:30, stay tuned. And so, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.